As I said, this festival is called Fragments. This is something, I don't compare it to a French festival, but I felt as things that I wanted to see that people have been whispering in my ear artistically that they've been doing this project or working on this, and or want to extend that, or just different collaborations we're talking about for the last year or so. So as I see things, I like to find a way to make them happen. That's kind of part of my make. As things happen for me, I like to make things happen for others, pay forward. So this piece is called Mother's Tongue. It's originally a poem, a series of poems and prose that Debra, Wright, is the creator of. And this time we're going to try adding some things to it. And we'd love to hear your feedback after we're done. If you get settled, thank you very much.
Reading from Faith in the Valley by Ayala Van Saint. Mothers are people too. Quote, before your mother was your mother, she was a playful little girl who hated bugs, loved candy, and never wanted to go to bed when she was sent. She was an adolescent with zits and no breasts who wanted a boyfriend. She was a teenager who had cramps and who wanted a prom date. To kiss her in the places her mama said were off limits. She was a young woman, ready to leave home but afraid to go. She had problems and fears and bad days. Before your mother was your mother, she had dreads, she had galls, and yes, she had a life. Then she had you. Even if she didn't expect you, she welcomed you. She gave you the best of who she was and what she had, even when it didn't look like it. She was afraid for herself, and even more so for you, even if she never said anything about it. She wanted you to have things that she didn't have to give you. She wanted to tell you things she couldn't bring herself to say. There were times she hurt your feelings. At other times, she made you mad. In the middle of your struggle with her, you probably never considered everything your mother was before she was your mother. She still is and will be forever. End of quote.
My Mother's Tongue, a memoir in 4 vignettes. Prologue. Her voice chants bells like the pentatonic scales of the steel-tongued drum. I speak of my mother, Corrine Brown Powell, who wrote on a purple handmade construction paper card, dotted with multicolored stick-on stars and hearts, thinking of you for always thinking of me, Debbie. My response to that tangible love offering, an acrostic poem entitled Debra. Determined to make a difference, I evidence my mother's wisdom with bodacious words and righteous rhythms wrapped around my African curves. This is our story, my mother's and mine. She is my muse, and I am her Phyllis Wheatley, her first English-speaking offspring of African descent, granted the privilege and honor to present poems in London, England, and her only daughter to be published in America, Philadelphia to be exact. In an excerpt from one of Phyllis Wheatley's writings in her 1773 collection, Poems on Various Subjects, Religious and Moral, she professes, I, young in life, by seeming cruel fate, was snatched from Africa's fancy happy seat. What pangs excruciating must molest? What sorrows Self-described Black lesbian mother, warrior poet Audre Lorde in her 1970 prose piece, "Poetry is Not a Luxury," wrote, "Art, quote, but as we become more in touch with our own ancient Black, non-European view of living as a situation to be experienced and interacted with, we learn more and more to cherish our feelings and to expect those hidden sources of our power from where true knowledge and therefore lasting action comes." End quote. I heard my voice chant bells like the pentatonic scales of the steel tongue drum. She said, "I am Black, daughter, mother, lover, writing myself to life." One, Moja. Sometimes
I feel like a motherless child. Sometimes I feel like a motherless child. Sometimes I feel like a motherless child, a long way from home.
quote, "They say a girl becomes a woman when she loses her mother. You, my child, were born a woman." End quote. Edwidge Danticat. Before I emerged from my mother's womb in January 1957, I had already been mothered by the DNA of thousands of years of African ancestry in places like Nigeria, Cameroon, Mali, Senegal, and Ghana. She, my birth mother, was born in 1935 on a cotton farm in Tennille, Georgia. Rooted to the prehistoric bones of Lucy and future unnamed generations of ancient Fulani women. Her mothering of me was mostly quiet and serene, accomplished between the work-from-home moments of cooking, cleaning, and caring for me and my 5 other siblings while our father went to work. Although she completed her 65 physical years on this planet in October 2001, my presence here and now is evidence that my mother continues to offer me lessons from a realm to which I have not yet been invited to join. I have intuited many teachings from my mother's tongue, because I now believe her to have been a personification of the goddess Oshun. I have come to accept that a natural mystic regularly whispered in her ear, a voice only she could hear. At times, when she spoke to herself or the air in an unknown language, or I had witnessed her writing in hieroglyphics, I realized that she said and read words that only she could comprehend. When I was 9, my father gave me a book about her and explained as best he could that the doctors called her condition schizophrenia. Still, I remember her mothering as the sweet waters of a rainforest, a gift, hers and mine. In the book, The Art of Death, Writing the Final Story, Edwidge Danticat wrote, "There's no such thing as simple mourning for anyone, really, except that as writers, our grief becomes woven into the fabric of our work as well as into our source material. Somewhere between the many times that I have spoken words to myself or listened to my mother's tongue or read the works of women of color poets and writers or swayed to songs to beyond very African diasporan vocalist or simply gathered with my sister friends, I wrote, found this poem within the words that pull pain. Our lives bearing witness to love and struggle stories. We who are now women share our girlhood paths, surrounding ourselves in sisterhood and mother love. We who are now women must wear our survivor identities, wrap ourselves in strength, courage, wisdom, and scars. Because we who have been wounded by shame and sorrow have found for women collective healing. We have been there, done lots of this and that, then when we became woke by artists and activists, our ancestors divined that now, while in our right minds and open hearts, this is the time to share and say, we will welcome you while you work yourselves. Talking to you, baby girl, black girl, woman, we who be sisters in search of soul, seekers of higher ground, we have faced displacement many more moons than twice. Some with our potions of oatmeal and yogurt, we've conjured that our juju makes the man. Talking to you in the night might have named yourselves Bolivia. You who stake claim that your rivers run deep. Talking to you little black girls who wear your aphrodisiac sweet like sexy Sadie. You 4+ women who have lost the distance, your loose connections of sisterhood. Talking to you who call yourselves Rose and Grace. You who have forgotten how we fall. We can heal ourselves amidst the safety of Soledad summer. Our worst day that never happened can lead to new beginnings. Originally speaking, we already possess the power to do another woman thing. Remember that beneath your rough edges, your nappiness is happiness. Embrace your true colors of womanhood. Show that you've moaned like Nina's M.O. Then just be the high priestess. Two.
All right, yeah, all right. See like woman, she drink coffee, she drink tea. In her home, sea lion woman, dressed in green, real silk stockings with golden seams. Sea lion woman, dressed in red, make a man lose his head. Sea lion woman, black dress on, $1,000. She wheels and she moans, wiggle, wiggle, turn like head. Wink at man, and he winks back. Now, child, see my woman, empty his pockets and wreck his days. Make him love her, and she'll fly away.
An artist's duty, as far as I'm concerned, is to reflect the times, said Nina Simone. In her autobiography, I Put a Spell on You, Nina Simone wrote, I was seduced by the Africa in my mind, my mythical home. My Africa had no countries, just hundreds of different peoples mixed through history into a rough cocktail and forced to seed an exiled nation in a far-off country. My great-grandfather, grandma, daddy, mama, me. end quote. Although I have not yet stepped foot onto my ancestral land, I imagine that my matrilineal lines of life, firmly planted into her fertile soil, bear beige bamboo to blue-black sycamore branches, thick and long with leaves the color of fall, surrounded by autumn foliage. Warsan Shire, author of Teaching My Mother How to Give Birth, wrote, "At the end of the day, it isn't where I come from. Maybe home is where I'm going and never have been before." End quote. I am African, because my righteous roots grow revolutionary into a mass of tangled strands that I twisted into self-styled blackness. I am caught by Africa's ancestral spirit, the Fulani spirit, bounded by baobab roots, grounded by Africa's revolutionary rise to full-blown blackness. I am threaded with her cultural strands, her rhythmic strands. They make me boogie to the blackness, bound by the roots their music, revolutionary because it is Africa's. Therefore, I embrace Africa's earthy strands, awash in a revolutionary sun-soaked spirit, drenched in roots, drowned in the lightness of blackness, my blackness, colored by Africa's regal rich roots, her natty red strands locked tightly till I hear my Swahili spirit speaking in tongues revolutionary. So revolutionary that blackness dwells in my spirit, lives in my African carried strands, resides in my dark desert roots. I am blessed with the spirit of these roots, coiled into revolutionary strands with a blackness that is forever African's. I am she. 3.
When I was just a little girl, I asked my mother, what would I be? Would I be pretty? Would I be rich? Here's what she said to me. Que sera, sera. Whatever will be, will be. The future's not ours to see. Que sera, sera.
I do not sing politics. I merely sing the truth, said Miriam Makeba. When I was just a little girl, I recall my mother vocalizing this song as she went about her household chores or as she sat drinking cup after cup of Maxwell House coffee and smoking Winston cigarettes at the kitchen table in our 3-story Philadelphia row home across the street from the 4-block-long stone wall of the Germantown Cricket Club. I also do not sing politics. In fact, I do not sing well. I merely attempt to write the truth. And one of those truths is that my mother's tongue has sometimes been silenced by the side effects of lithium and Haldol. And to tell another truth, I am certain that an additional source of her silence was that she wore the hashtag of Me Too before it became famous, before meeting my father. After too many years to count in his own distress about her mental state, my father told this horrible news to me and my siblings, even though he had been sworn to secrecy by my mother's sister. Finally, at the age of 21, 13 years after I had learned the word schizophrenia and not long after I had become a mother, I began to understand the source of my mother's trauma. In that moment, I also began to take my own steps towards self-care because I too had had borne the silence of Me Too from a long ago encounter with a man now dead. If you are silent about your pain, they will kill you and say you enjoyed it, writes Zora Neale Hurston. Thankfully, I have become unsilenced. With my voice, I have allowed myself to benefit from therapy, from poetry, from the listening ear of my husband, and from the sisterhood of women like Me Too founder Tarana Burke, who said, "It is important to acknowledge the trauma, but even more crucial to cultivate joy. Pleasures await. You need not wade on the precipice of murky waters waiting for ecstasy to envelop you or to drown away your darkness. Truth be told, to thine own self be true. Remind you of new healing rhythms, your rhymes, your profound and poetic lines. You possess them under the skin grid. Lavish your life in letters like love sounds, spelling your name in the sun, in the rain. And when you remember your words, put your poem to music. Play it again and again and again and then. You'll see yourself swimming in the natural beauty of your life. 4. You can't have relationships with other people until you give birth to yourself. Sonia Sanchez. About 25 years ago, before receiving the second place award in the 1997 Sonia Sanchez Audre Lorde Poetry Writing Contest, I had met a woman whose name I do not recall at the Free Library of Philadelphia. We were there with about 10 other people, men and women, for a poetry writing workshop conducted by a then English professor and still friend of mine, Dr. Julie Bennett O'Neill. One by one, she asked us to stand, introduce ourselves, and tell our purpose for being in that room. I was Debra Powell at that time and probably said something like, to learn how to write poetry. The name I do not recall woman was less shy and much more eloquent. She told us that she had been first a daughter, and then a wife, and then a mother, then a divorcee, a sculptress, a magazine writer, and then she shared about 6 other significant moments in her life to explain where she had been. She ended with, and now I'm on my 13th life, and in the process of figuring out what that life looks like for me. In the next week, as the lesson required, I reintroduced myself, incorporating a fictionalized version of the truth of what will be as an artist, reflecting the times. 7 years before I met my husband, 10 years before I had experienced my mother's death. This is the first poem I shared in public. I began my first life by being birthed from a womb, weighted with wounds, which some say may cause me to forget, to remember reminders of my most memorable self. But I do remember. I remember that quickly I strutted to phase 2. It was the phase in which I wore some wicked wear to test my vows, soon-to-be husband, who I loved to stage 3 on Wednesday nights before work wore him down and out. The 4th found me belching out babies, 4 before controlled birth failed, before reaching my quarter century. So sometimes hard to swallow, but I survived the 5th dimension with the 6th sense that family was forever. I rewarded them, they rewarded me with love lessons learned. 7th heaven lasted long until they left me. I left me like an 8 ball on the edge of a corner pocket. So in the 9th inning, I walked to 11, gained strength to run through 12, and now I'm on my 13th life. Those love lessons will let me live this life less later. I'm blessed to be born again. Epilogue. I remember the nights we danced to reggae rhythms, the days I bathed your brown skin beauty, not because there's any